honored to be able to join you and to share a little bit of my story, how I'm working to inspire the next generation of scientists and explorers, and how other educators around the world are doing the same thing. So we're going to dive right into a live presentation here. There's going to be some fun video clips. We're going to learn about a really exciting resource. And then we're going to learn how educators are bringing scientists and explorers live into their classroom and how that's helping and changing the way that they teach and inspire their students. So there will be time for Q&A at the end. I'll do my best to make sure I leave some time, but let's dive right into it. Oops. Just going to make one more change here to our view. There we go. All right. So first of all, just start off with a little bit about what keeps me going. And it's this crew here. This is my family. My wife, Elizabeth, who puts up with an awful lot from me. And then my two characters, Nora, just turned 5, and Finn just turned 9. And then, of course, our 2 rescue mutts are pretty important members of the family as well. Now, a lot of what today's presentation about is inspiring the next generation of scientists and explorers. And, you know, this happened to me when I was young. I can look back at certain activities and certain things that I did that have really shaped what I'm doing today and continue to do. So for me, growing up watching Jacques Cousteau and his adventures around the world and how he shared the ocean with the general public was pretty exciting for me. David Attenborough, of course, was another big influence, traveling the world and bringing nature right into our living rooms. And of course, what we're doing to our planet. And then I'm sure many of you are familiar with this yellow bordered magazine. I know my classrooms growing up were full of them. I know when I was teaching in the classroom, my classroom was full of them as well. This really was my window to the world outside of my community growing up. And I think all of these influences really kind of influenced the activities I love to do today. I still love to do the things that keep my mom up at night. I love to be outside. I love to do activities that kind of give you that little bit of a rush, make you feel alive. And then I know it for sure led to me becoming an explorer at the National Geographic Society. So over the last few years, I've been able to take part in some exciting opportunities, build some great programs with them, and of course, visit some really exciting places around the world. And I know for a fact it led to my favorite hobby. So whenever I can, I like to jump into the water and go scuba diving, explore a world that most of the planet will never be able to see. And I want to take you into that world for a moment here. This is a green sea turtle on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And then my ultimate favorite thing to do is to be in the water with sharks. Anytime a shark is around on a dive is a really exciting dive. You can see here, these are hammerheads in the Bahamas, and you can see they're just so obliging, coming and smiling for the camera. And I want to take you with me and see a little bit of footage here. This is in Bimini. You can see in front of us, there's a whole bunch of nurse sharks hanging out at the bottom. And then the hammerhead sharks come in one by one by one, over and over and over again. These big 10 to 12 foot puppy dogs, they're beautiful sharks. They get really close sometimes. I was lucky enough to spend 6 hours with them over 2 days. Never once felt threatened, never once felt I was in danger. There's tons of myths about sharks out there, perpetuated by Discovery Channel Shark Week, perpetuated by the movie Jaws and things like that. In reality, sharks aren't mindless killing machines. They're definitely misunderstood. And you can see it is quite an experience to be in the water with them. They are pretty sneaky sometimes, so you have to kind of keep your head on a swivel, but I think they're more curious than anything else. Now I'm going to show you one more little video clip before we really dive into things. This is, I was lucky enough to be in the Galapagos in August, and you know, people think sharks are dangerous. I was viciously attacked by a marine animal in the Galapagos, and I think this should get a lot more press, so I'm going to share this video here with you now. Look at that. Lucky to escape with my life after that encounter. In reality, actually, sea lions are a lot of fun. they're pretty sneaky too. And if you don't pay attention, they'll sneak up on you and blow bubbles in your face. They like to do somersaults with them. And they'll even steal your fin if you're not paying attention. All right. Well, I didn't always know I wanted to be an educator. I studied biological sciences. I studied zoology in university. But my future wife, she knew that she wanted to be a teacher. And she asked if I would want to come with her to Australia while she went to teachers college. And that was a pretty easy question to say yes to. I spent a year traveling and bartending in Australia. And it was there that I realized that I wanted to share my passion for science, for nature, for what we're doing to our planet with the next generation. So after our year there, when we got back, I went to teachers college in Ontario, and I started teaching math and science. Now, after a few years, I think I started to feel like this teacher here up at the top, and I think my students were starting to look kind of like that. I knew I wasn't reaching my students the way I wanted to. I don't think I was inspiring them the way I wanted them to, getting them excited to become scientists and explorers and to do something for our planet. So I knew I needed to do something. I knew if I wasn't enjoying myself, that they probably weren't enjoying the lessons either. So with that in mind, I came across an article about Fabien Cousteau, Jacques Cousteau's grandson, who would be living and working on the bottom of the ocean for 31 days. What really caught my eye was that he was going to be connecting with classrooms via Skype from the bottom of the ocean. And I knew right then and there my class had to be one of them. But it also got me thinking, if I can talk to a Cousteau on the bottom of the ocean, what else might I be able to bring live into my classroom? What could I use technology for to really get my students excited, to inspire them, and really get them interested in what we were learning about? So with my class that year, we set a goal. We wanted to connect with 50 scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists from all around the world. And we set about reaching out to people and making these connections happen. We did it. By the end of the year, we had 52 live connections with scientists and explorers all over the world. A few examples here. This is a Canadian astronaut, Jeremy Henson, and he is at a training facility in Houston, and he is showing off some gear for us. This is Jean. Jean spends 4 months out of the year living in Antarctica in a penguin colony, studying and researching them. So as my students were asking questions, the penguins were looking in the camera and trying to figure out what was going on. Here's Nizar. Nizar is a paleontologist, does a lot of work in the Sahara Desert, particularly Morocco, uncovering rich ecosystems that existed millions and millions of years ago. We were talking climate change. So here's my buddy Pal. He is in Iceland, and he is talking to the students from a glacier and teaching them about glaciers and what's happening to them in Iceland. And then one more example, Andrea Marshall, queen of the mantas, studies mantas all over the world, discovered new species. So really great connections to be having with the classroom. And then I couldn't resist getting in on the action. I decided to start teaching lessons virtually, teaching lessons to classrooms around the world about scuba diving, putting my gear together, exploring the ocean, sea creatures, what we're doing to our ocean. And so I started getting up at some pretty crazy hours to teach classrooms in India and the Middle East and Ireland and Argentina, but it was a lot of fun. So, doing this with my classroom, I got to see a lot of things happen. And so I want to share this story in particular with you about what can happen when students get inspired and students get excited. So this was the class. This was the class I started doing these live events with. This was a grade 6 class. And, they were really excited to be taking part in these events. But one issue that we ran into was they never believed me about sharks. All the stories I told them, the pictures I shared them, they thought I was crazy. Like, Mr. G, you're going to get attacked one day. Sharks are dangerous. We've seen lots of shows. We don't believe you. So I brought in an expert, my friend Jillian from Sharks for Kids in the Bahamas, in Florida. And she spent 45 minutes with my students, and she totally flipped the switch on them. She shared her experiences diving around the world, videos that she makes, the research she does, and lots of really good facts. Facts like, more people die each year from using their toaster or falling out of a chair. Across the planet, 5 to 7 people a year die from shark bites whereas we're removing 75 to 100 million from the ocean every year. So it's actually the other way around. Sharks have a lot to fear from us. Now, after all of this, my students not only understood what was happening around the world, but they wanted to do something about it. So we started writing letters to the Premier of Western Australia. We read there was going to be a shark call. They'd be killing bull sharks and tiger sharks and great white sharks, some of which are endangered species. And they were going to do this to try to keep the beaches safe. So no research, no science behind it. So my students did a ton of research and wrote letters. And we heard back from the Premier, and he basically said, you know what, you guys don't really know what you're talking about. So, butt out. And that made my students angry because they had done a lot of research, more research than I think the government did. And they wrote more letters back to the Premier. In the process, we made local and global headlines. So this is an example of a newspaper in our local town in Guelph. And then here's a couple headlines from papers in Western Australia. So here's one from Perth Now. And then another one here from Western Australia Today. Now, best part of all of this is I got to watch my students become global citizens. I watched them find their voice as they did radio interviews, as they did public service announcements, as they did a video for a conservation group in Australia. They realized they didn't have to wait until they were 18 to make a difference, to speak out and use their voice about issues happening around the world. So it was a huge learning experience for them and a huge one for me that really showed me the power of bringing scientists and explorers live into your classroom and the impact that it can have on students. So it didn't end there. My students wanted to bring that learning to the school board. So we raised money in the community. We had donations of meals and hotels, and we got a grant, and we were able to bring 3 shark biologists to our school board and then have them tour and talk to all 8,000 students and share that same learning with the entire school board. And so that grew into a guest speaker tour that happened for several years afterwards. We'd bring a scientist from Madagascar or the UK or somewhere else, bring them into our school community and have them teach and be with all of the students. So just again, a continuation of that learning and just an amazing experience for the students. So for 2 years at the classroom level, I was doing these events for my students and building this list of scientists and adventurers from all over the world, explorers. And in the summer of 2015, it started to bother me that only 30 students a year were benefiting from these live events. I wanted to find a way to bring this into classrooms across North America and then hopefully to the world. So that summer, I started a non-for-profit. I called it Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And our goal is to inspire the next generation of scientists and explorers. We do this by bringing science, exploration, adventure, and conservation live into classrooms across North America and beyond. We've been doing this since 2015. We've hosted well over 3,000 live events. We've had well over 500,000 students join us. And we've worked with scientists and explorers from 95 countries around the world. So it continues to grow. We continue hosting more events. Let's talk a little bit about how this works. So we use a platform called StreamYard. StreamYard might be new to some of you joining us today. You might be more used to Zoom or Meets or Microsoft Teams. We use StreamYard for a few reasons. One is that there's nothing to download. So classrooms don't have to download new programs. And sometimes some schools can use Zoom, but they can't use Meet or Teams, or they can use Teams, but they can't use Zoom. So by having a platform that everybody can use and nobody has to download anything, it makes it more accessible. Now, this platform does 3 really cool things for us. One is that we can have classrooms join in on camera. So just like in a Zoom call, we have maybe 6 or 7 classrooms who are on camera at their different schools. They can interact with the speaker, ask questions and things like that. And at the same time, all of the events stream live over YouTube via our YouTube channel. That means there's no limit to how many classrooms can tune in live. They can tune in live. They can send in questions via the live chat. And then we also do Kahoot quizzes, interactive quizzes during the events as well, where students get to compete against each other. So if you're tuning in live via YouTube, you can use and join the Kahoot quizzes as well. Finally, all of our events record to our YouTube channel. What that means is that any educator, any student can tune into an event afterwards anytime that they want to. So we love StreamYard. It's really easy to use. Basically, if you have Google Chrome, you're ready to go. And all you have to do is follow a link to tune in on YouTube, or follow a special link to join in a live camera spot. So we get to work with a lot of cool groups around the world. Sometimes we work with them from time to time. Sometimes we work with them every month, but a lot of great organizations, a lot of great institutions like National Geographic, NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. We work with zoos and aquariums, places like the Duke Lemur Center, to do a lot of cool events for classrooms. But at the same time, we host hundreds and hundreds of individual scientists and explorers who share their stories, the expeditions they go on, the work they're doing around the world and why it's important, how they got inspired to follow their passion into their career. A few pictures of classrooms in action. So here you can see this is during COVID times. The students have their masks on and they're taking part in one of the live events. During pre-COVID times, lots of classrooms would gather together, sometimes in the same room by grade level, and it was, you know, a bit more able to interact with each other. Virtual field trips are always a hit when we get to visit somewhere live. So this is the Turtle Hospital in the Florida Keys. When students take part in this event, they get to see different species of sea turtles that they have at the facility. They get to learn about what's happening to them, how they can help out, see if they're able to release them back into the wild. So it's a really fun field trip for the classrooms. During COVID, with many classrooms at home, we had a lot of educators join in a different way. So the educator would take a camera spot and then they would share their screen to their students from home. So they could still, all the students could still gather together. They could still be part of the event together and still ask questions live. Now, in most places, classrooms are back. So educators aren't doing this as much anymore, but we do still have virtual schools and spots where schools are closed due to COVID, where educators still join this way with their classrooms. So one more picture there of classrooms in action. So in any given month, we could be hosting 30, 40, 50, even 60 live events for classrooms to join into. These are from the world of science, adventure, exploration, and conservation. We try to have a large amount of speakers available, speakers from different backgrounds, different places, and things like that. Oftentimes, we have cool themes during the month. February is a great example. In February, we kick all of the men out, and we only host women in science and exploration all February long. October is another great example for space exploration. We host scientists and explorers and astronauts, researchers from NASA and ESA, CSA and SpaceX and other organizations, and they can share their stories of leaving the planet, exploring the solar system and beyond. Now, the best thing about this project is that we don't charge classrooms for what we do. It's 100% free for classrooms everywhere. We've never charged a classroom. We never will. As a nonprofit, we want a level playing field where any classroom anywhere can take part in the events as much as they want and not have to worry about the financial cost. So that means we're always looking for grants and sponsorships and partners, donations and things like that, but it allows us to keep what we do free for classrooms. One of our first big successes once we launched the program is we won the Inspired Minds Learning Project. This was a cross-Canada search for a new learning project. Over 300 groups applied. After 2 weeks of voting, we made the top 10. And then from there was a panel of judges, and we were the unanimous choice for the $100,000 top prize. What that let us do was build a beautiful new website and a few other things and get some really cool technology. So most of our events, they take place from a scientist or explorer's home, from their office, from their lab, in the field, if there's a good cell phone connection. But I wanted to find a way to bring the most remote places on the planet live into classrooms, places where nobody's ever broadcast live from before. And I found these satellite units. They're about the size of a textbook. They were being used by the military, by reporters in the field, by people looking for minerals, geologists, things like that. But I thought they could be used for education. So we started getting some of those units and buying satellite time and then sending them into the field with scientists and explorers. Our first ever go at this was sending them to the Blue Holes National Park in the Bahamas with Kenny Broad and Jill Heiner. These are two cave divers on a big expedition down there with a huge team as they explored these blue holes. They did some incredible live events for classrooms around the world, and they put together a beautiful video here that I want to share with you of some of that expedition.
So this morning's mission is to go in with some little plastic vials, and after we've put in the location pinger, this guy right here, we're going to put that in the cave. It'll float vertically in the cave, and then we're going to find it on the surface because it's going to emit some signals. And after that, we're going to go and try to find some critters to bring up in little plastic vials so the kids can see them. And then after the kids leave this afternoon, we'll go return them to their watery home.
Here comes our first question from Thunder Bay.
Hi, my name is Brooklyn, and my question is, have you ever encountered with any rare animals in the blue holes?
We think that animals like the remipede, we think they've been around for over 200 million years with very little change.
He's got little venomous pincers, so he can actually like lock onto something, inject venom, and kind of dissolve the thing and eat it over time.
Whatever inside like the meat or something, it turns into jello so that they could just slurp it up.
Wow. Ugh. And it's got dozens of legs swimming around there, and it's actually the top predator, and you can see how tiny it is, but it's the top predator in the cave. And remember, it doesn't have eyes. It only senses from either vibrations or some kind of chemical signal in the water.
Some of them are endemic. That means that they live only in one cave that we found them on the whole planet. And in some cases, animals can be endemic to a single room in a single cave. Now, there might be more of them on planet Earth, but there's not too many cave divers that can identify animals, so we haven't found them yet.
Thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Loud as we can from all the classes out there.
Okay, so just a little taste of one of those live events from the field. You can see the exciting things we can bring live to classrooms. You can see how excited students get when they take part in these events and they get to meet scientists and explorers in cool places, studying excited things. You can see how things like this could spark curiosity and questions and passion and future careers in biology and science. And even if it doesn't spark a future career, it can spark a better understanding of our planet, being more empathetic and making better decisions about how we use our resources. So a few more examples here of places the satellite units have gone. The top corner is Clipperton Atoll. This is the most remote coral island on the planet. There's Guatemala. We broadcast live from a volcano there. The Agui River in Gabon. In the bottom two corners are two different events in Antarctica. You can see penguins in both of those events. And then that last image there is in California. So this is a beach where elephant seals breed. And so just imagine doing this event live, all these elephant seals on the beach. There's a big male, the beach master, who protects all the females. And if other males come, they fight for the beach. And lucky for us, during this live event, another male came on the beach, and the students got to see this fight happening in real time between these two male elephant seals. It was pretty incredible. And you can see that the animals are pretty curious about the gear as well. So this is Magellan penguin in Argentina. Very curious about the satellite equipment and what it does. So we do try to do a little bit of curriculum, a little bit of resources that educators can use before and after the events. Now, most of our time is devoted to the live events, but we do try to make resources around some of the themes like ocean plastic or space exploration or biodiversity. So we make story maps. If you've never heard of a story map before, it's basically like a really interactive web page where you can drop in maps and pictures and video and links and tell a moving story to the world really, but we use it specifically for educators and students. So we do try to build a little bit of curriculum that educators can use. We also have a big event every year to get students outside. So we call it Backyard Bio. Every May, we have classrooms from around the world sign up, and then the classrooms get outside all month long using apps like iNaturalist and Seek with their smartphones. And they take pictures of what they see in their communities of wildlife and plants. Those images they can post on Twitter and use the hashtag Backyard Bio or Instagram. And then all the images, if they connect their account, will come up on our main iNaturalist page. And so we can get a global picture of all the cool plants and animals that students are seeing around the world. And then we pair those classrooms up in groups of 3 and 4 with other classrooms in different locations. And then they can have video calls with each other. They can compete to see who finds the most animals. And then they can share the different animals and plants that they're finding in their communities. So if you visit our website, there's a Backyard Bio section. You can sign your class up because we're getting ready to do it all again in the new year in May. You can see last year we had over 55,000 observations of plants and animals and almost 9,000 species that students found. So really cool. And obviously we're hoping to have even bigger numbers this May.
I'm explorer and adventurer George Karunas, and when I explore, I do it by the seat of my pants.
So we try to bring the extreme live into classrooms. That's a good friend of mine, George Karunas. I asked him to shoot a little video for us on one of his expeditions, and that's what he sent back. He was in Vanuatu in his heat suit next to a lake of lava. So pretty cool. I'm really excited he did that video for us. We also share the extremely cute with classrooms. These are some 2-fingered sloths in Costa Rica. We often, several times a month, will visit the Toucan Rescue Ranch and we'll see Costa Rican wildlife that they're rehabilitating and, if possible, releasing back into the wild. And then students always get very excited and inspired, and we'll raise money to adopt a sloth and help them do the work they do because they're totally funded through donations and tours of the facility. And we bring the extremely important live into classrooms. This is in Kenya on Old Pejeta Conservancy. This is Amy Vitale, a National Geographic photographer, and she's with 2 rangers. Those beautiful rhinos you see, that's Najin and Fatu. They are the last 2 northern white rhinos on the planet, the last 2. No better way to really hit home for students what we're doing to our planet, how we're losing biodiversity, than by an event where they see these beautiful animals, these big charismatic rhinos, and they're the last 2 left on the planet. Poaching is a massive issue. Their horns are sought after for traditional medicine. So being able to broadcast an event like this live for classrooms is pretty incredible. Now, poaching is a huge issue. Conservation is a huge issue around the world. And in many cases, conservation is becoming a bit of a war, a battle. Conservationists in some places are losing their life trying to protect wild places, wild species. And so we really want to bring what's happening to students live. We don't want to sugarcoat it for them. We want them to see what's happening around the world, how serious it is, and why they need to act, how they can act, and how they can make a difference. So I want to share a clip with you now from one of our most exciting events, one of the craziest things we've ever done live from the field. This clip here is in Africa. We did this on World Rhino Day. And I'll just give you a little warning. It's a little bit intense, but I do want to assure you that this is no different than you or I cutting our fingernails. It's no different than you or I cutting our hair. So keep that in mind as you watch this video. And I hope you can see as you watch this how impactful this would be for students, the discussion that might come out of it afterwards, and how it can give them a real picture of conservation and how serious things are. We're going to go live right now to Nico, flying by helicopter. Nico, how you doing?
Hey Joe, good afternoon to everybody there, and nice having you live streaming with us today. Thank you so much. A privilege on World Rhino Day.
Yeah, Nico, it's absolutely incredible. We've done a lot of events around the world. This is our first one from a helicopter, so you're making a little exploring by the seat of your pants history today.
Oh, that's beautiful, Joe. It's such amazing to have all the people on board with us today. I hope the signal lasts. So I really hope that it can pull through. We're in a little bit of an isolated area, but we'll see how it all turns out. This is Ryan Jeffries, the vet behind me. He's assisting us. He's the veterinarian today, so he's helping me the rhinos today. We're looking for a rhino that's got a horn. That's potentially a problem for poachers, so you'll see them through the CP line coming through now. And it'll be the back one. We're going to dart the back rhino. You can see there. Joe, have you got visual?
Yeah, we've got a visual. We can see them on the ground.
Yeah, so we're gonna just gonna put away the camera now, and then we're gonna start with the darting process. Joe, you'll see the animal is almost down and sleeping, so we have to get the vet down just quickly to just stabilize the breathing. I'm just gonna go around the animal so you guys can just see what we see. And we've got the ground crew coming in. So you can see the animal is basically asleep there where he is now. And we're just going to try and land a little bit away. So just excuse that I'm going to go off the screen now. I just want to quickly land so we can get the vet to the animal.
Yeah, no worries, Nico. This is incredible.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Joe. Just check my tail, please. Ryan, my tail. Okay, you've got visual on the tail. Okay.
Sorry? So let's roll her over. Okay. Okay, Joe, so what we've got is we just put a blindfold up for the rhino. So you can see we're just going to let her go down quickly. That's it. So basically there you can see that is all. It's just touching on its active growth point. And you know, this is about a 300 gram rhino horn, so this probably would worth in excess of about 10 to 15,000 US dollars, just this little piece. That's why this commodity is, so unbelievably sought after. But he's fully awake now.
Very impressive, Nico, from start to finish. That was a quick process.
Okay, Joe, I'm not gonna go closer. So anyway, that was what we would like to show you today.
Okay, so a little context to that video. Like I mentioned, that horn is made of keratin, just like your fingernails, just like your hair. Lots of studies have shown there's no medicinal value to the rhino horn, but unfortunately, on the black market, 1 kilogram of rhino horn can be worth $60,000. So you can see the immense amount of pressure that rhinos are under. Now, in places where their horns aren't being removed like that, they can lose hundreds of them each year. Whereas when they take the horn off like that, the numbers fall to just a couple rhinos lost each year, because there's no more incentive for the poachers to hunt the rhinos if they're not getting that big prize at the end. So yeah, I mean, think about the conversations this would spark with your students. It's amazing what we can do with technology, where we can take students, we can take them to the front lines of conservation and science on our planet, and they can meet the people out in the field doing the work. And I don't think there's any better way to inspire students than to let them meet these amazing people all around the planet. So changing gears now, I just briefly want to touch on National Geographic. So since 2014-ish, I've had a great relationship with National Geographic as an emerging explorer, a fellow, working on programs, a grantee, and things like that. But I do want to bring this to your awareness, the National Geographic Educator Certification Program. So you can become a National Geographic certified educator. Some of you might already be certified educators with the National Geographic. There's a few benefits to that, of course. There's the professional recognition of being a certified educator with National Geographic. You're connected to the community of educators around the world. And then, of course, there's a few perks and benefits that come along with it as well. It's not a huge undertaking of your time. I think it's about 17 to 20 hours. They open it up for educators to register. There's a workshop that you take part in. You take part in 2 activities. So you do 2 lessons with your students, and then you do a short video, 1 to 2 minute video to share what you did in your classroom and how it impacted your students. And then they share that with the whole community. So it's a neat opportunity to work with educators around the world, to gain access to some cool resources with the National Geographic, and it's great professional recognition. The last thing I want to say about National Geographic is there's a cool program called Explorer Classroom. So I founded this classroom or this program with them in 2017. It's kind of a sister program to Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, but they only host National Geographic Explorers. And they do maybe 10 or so events a month, but they're really cool. So another thing worth checking out is Explorer Classroom. Now, I want to end off today by talking a little bit about how educators like yourself can use these events in your classroom with your students. So before the events, there's lots of things educators do. Some of them match it to their curriculum. So they think, okay, what are we learning about this year? What event is a good fit? And they sign up for their classroom. But at the same time, it's okay to host events to bring people into your classroom, even if you're not studying that topic. It's never a bad idea to have your students connect with a marine biologist or an astronaut or someone who just rowed across the Pacific Ocean. Your students can learn a lot from them about failure and passion and those different topics. Don't be afraid to reach out. Maybe there's local scientists at a local university or in your community. Send them a message, invite them to speak to your classroom. You'd be surprised how often they'll say yes. Talk to your students, find out what are they excited about? What do they want to learn more about? And then a lot of teachers check their technology before an event. They make sure their speakers are working. They make sure that their microphones are connected properly. And at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, we're always happy to do test calls with teachers if it's their first time, to make sure they feel comfortable. So during the event, what to do during the event? Well, some teachers do their questions in advance, so they have questions ready. I think it's more fun to let your students come up with the questions during the event, because they're seeing what the Scientist Explorer is saying, and then they're coming up with their questions in real time. A lot of educators keep explorers logs. So they have journals where they write about the event, what they learned. They write down questions that they can research afterwards, what they'd like to learn more about. A lot of them have maps in the front as well, so they can mark where they visited from their classroom around the world. And then, of course, they share their experiences with other classes in their school or post them online via Twitter and Instagram. Afterwards, educators talk to their students. They collect feedback. They finish their explorer's log. They dig deeper. So they do some research. What did they want to learn more about? What did they learn about sharks, and what do they still want to know? So they can go back and they can research. And then oftentimes when you look around the world, students want to look back at their community and they want to know, okay, do we have these same problems? Do we have organizations that are helping? What can we do in our community? And of course, getting involved, writing letters to politicians, helping conservation groups, raising money for organizations. There's lots of ways students can help out and be involved. And I wanted to touch on this specifically because I know many of you around the world are teaching English in your classrooms. So how can bringing in events like this help your students? How can it benefit them and get them excited? So first, hearing the language. Anytime that students can hear the language being spoken by speakers and hear new terms is a great opportunity. So through these events, students can hear language used, and maybe in some ways different than they have before. They get a chance to ask questions in English. So connecting with the scientists and explorers, they get a chance to practice their English when they ask some of these questions. Most important of all, when you're teaching something new, whether it's English or science or math or geography, if students are excited, if students are inspired by the content, they're going to learn more. They're going to learn more when they're excited about who they're meeting and who and what they get to learn about. So getting to meet scientists and explorers on the front lines of conservation all over the world, exploring volcanoes and the ocean and Antarctica and things like that, that's going to get students excited and wanting to know more, to learn more. And those lessons are really going to stick with them. Those kind of lessons stick with students forever, where they're not going to remember every math or science lesson that they have. So a few pictures from other educators, because teachers around the world use these programs. This is a class in Alaska. You can see they're doing a selfie with the speaker. They've got all their questions written on their smartboards. Here's a classroom learning from a speaker in Rwanda. You can see how excited they are to be connecting with that speaker and learning about his story. Now, cross-curricular, oh my goodness, just because it's science doesn't mean you can't use these lessons for language and writing and reading and geography. So some of the best writing I've ever seen comes from students who get excited about something, who are passionate and want to learn more. The writing doesn't feel like work because they're excited. So one time we had a speaker, she was an underwater explorer, and she was talking about what she does. And a student asked her, are there any sea creatures you don't like? And she said, I like all sea creatures. Well, except for crabs. I don't really like crabs. And so the next day, her inbox, her email was full of notes and writing from students asking her to give crabs another chance. A lot of these students did research about how important they are to the ecosystem and the different kinds of crabs and what they do. And so, you know, really exciting to see the writing that was inspired by this event and other events. Of course, some of the reasons were better than others, but this is one of my favorite reasons. I thought this was pretty good a pretty good point, pretty good research. But yeah, it's exciting to see what gets students passionate about. This is, we had a connection with owls, with a center that looks after owls. And the teacher went out to their local interpretive center and got these owl pellets. And the students were able to dissect the owl pellets the next day. This is a kindergarten classroom who took a virtual field trip to the Aquarius Reef Base. Afterwards, the students became aquanauts. They decorated their classroom, they built a reef base, and spent the whole week learning about our ocean and marine life. Students want to do something afterwards. This is students after connecting with Iwaso Lions in Kenya. They made these beautiful posters and posted them around their school, and then they had a fundraiser. This is a class in Michigan. They raised $613 for the Toucan Rescue Ranch through bake sales and other things. You can see how excited they were to make that difference and help out the sloths and other animals. Questioning skills grow by leaps and bounds. Lots of educators have said their students learn new terms and they ask more and more complex questions. So questions like, weren't you scared, can become questions like, what kind of symbiotic relationships do you see in a coral reef ecosystem? Educators map their learning. So you can see this classroom in Florida has these tendrils reaching out all over the world where their classroom is connected live. Students learn geography. They learn countries and capitals and cities all over the world when they take part in these live events. They really become more switched on global citizens. I mentioned that they look outside in these events, but then turn their eye back on the community. This classroom had an event in Brazil in the rainforest. Then they went and explored their local forest to see if the biodiversity was different. All kinds of great events, great scientists and explorers, like Jane Goodall. Who could be more inspiring than spending an hour with Jane Goodall and hearing her story and the work that she does around the world? So as we wrap up for today, and it looks like I've saved a nice amount of time for questions, I want you to think about, this quote that I think about all the time with what we do. Every scientist and explorer we have ever hosted can remember when it happened, when their passion for their chosen pursuit was ignited. It may have been meeting someone, an inspirational educator, seeing a documentary, or reading a book. It's these tiny aha moments we're striving to spark in classrooms everywhere. So I have talked to hundreds and hundreds of scientists and explorers all over the world, and they all have a story from when their passion was flicked on, when they started pursuing their career. And it wasn't always big moments. Sometimes it was as simple as talking to someone, meeting somebody, seeing a talk, watching a documentary on the BBC, something that triggered a passion, got them excited, and led them to what they're doing now. I want to share one last story with you to illustrate this. This is Joe Mcginnis. Joe is a Canadian explorer. He's also a medical doctor and has spent years and years, decades, diving and exploring our planet. He did a lot of work for the United States and Canadian Coast Guard and Navy. And what he would do is help build underwater habitats where divers could rest underwater and then continue their work so they could stay down for longer. Now, he got a letter after one of his expeditions from a 10 or 11-year-old student back when there was no emails, everyone was using letters. And that letter said, "You're so cool. I love the work you do. I love following your adventures. Would you send me the plans for one of the diver habitats so I can build one?" Now, it would have been easy to ignore that letter. It would have been easy to write back and just say, "Hey, thanks for the letter. Keep doing what you're doing." But, Joe always reaches out to students, especially when they reach out. And so he wrote back and he also sent a version of the plans, a really easy version of a plan so the student could build their own underwater habitat. So the student did. They built a little model of it. They put a mouse in it, and then they lowered that mouse off of a bridge into a river. Now, the story has a happy ending because the habitat worked and the mouse survived its journey under the sea. But that student grew up and ended up, that student was James Cameron. So some of you may know James Cameron. He obviously directed Titanic, Avatar, and things like that, but he is an incredible explorer. Was the third person to reach the deepest point in the ocean, the Marianas Trench. So there he is on that mission in his special submersible. And who knows what kind of an impact that interaction had on his life. What would have been different if Joe hadn't written back, if Joe hadn't taken the time to inspire him? And they've remained friends, and he's been his mentor ever since. So Joe is always out on the expeditions as the medical person, so that relationship has continued ever since. So I want to leave you today with some contact information. If you want to reach out via email, you can find me at ebtsoyp, it's just the initials, at gmail.com. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram. That's my personal handles at the front. And then Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants are those second ones. And then, of course, our website, exploringbytheseat.com. We might visit it for a minute or two before we wrap up today. We'll see how many questions there are. And I can show you how easy it is to use the website. But for now, I would like to stop that screen share and come back to you. So let's do that now. And I would love some questions. If you want to use it, it looks like there's a Q&A feature there. I can also check the chat and see if any questions came in, but I would love to take some of your questions. And then maybe if we have time, we can visit the website really quickly. So let's see here. We've got some questions here. How can my students become a part of this? So this is a great question from Magdalena. And the answer is it's very easy. So if you visit our website, exploringbytheseat.com, you can find the spot to register for the newsletter right on the front page. The newsletter goes out, we do one a week, has all the events that are available to join, and you can sign up for the events, and then we'll help you out from there. On the website as well, you can find all of the live lessons that are coming up for the whole month. So you can choose to watch them live, or you can go to our YouTube channel and watch them there. So very easy to join, and there's no money. Any classroom anywhere can join live. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Amir. All right. So yeah, Amir is asking about students that are not native speaking in English. So how can non-native students benefit from these videos? Well, there's two things that we can talk about there. The first one is that, if you are teaching English, these are great events for students to take part in. We try to keep the events very visual. So we ask the scientists and explorers, look, we don't want a lot of words on screen. We want pictures. We want video clips. Tell your story through pictures and video for us. And that helps out a lot with students. If the students don't speak English at all, then of course these students, these events aren't a great fit for them. However, that's an opportunity for you to reach out to your community, to your local community, and invite scientists and explorers to spend some time with your classroom. That's how I got started with this program, is I started reaching out to local scientists and explorers and inviting them to spend time with my classroom. So yes, great events for students to help them learn, right? Practice their English, ask questions in English. But if they don't speak any English at all, then I think the best opportunity is to start reaching out to your community and inviting scientists and explorers to visit your classroom. Okay, a question there about how to be a Nat Geo educator. So best thing to do is to search National Geographic Society, and you'll see that there's a website there and a section for educators. Every few months, they open up the spot to sign up for the course to be a certified educator. So right now, if you visit the website, it says notify me. So what you do is you can click the notify me box, and put your email in. And the next time they open up the program to educators, they'll send you an email and then you can sign up. Can I post the address again? Absolutely. Let me just drop that in the chat so that everybody can see it right in the chat. So I want this to go to everyone. All right. So it's just www.exploringbytheseat.com and you'll find it there. Let's see. So another certified educator question. There is no fee. So Dawn, I can see your question there. There is no fee to be a certified educator. What's my email and social again? So ebtsoyp@gmail.com. You can find my email. If you look on Instagram or Twitter, ebtsoyp, you can find both of them there. And then if you want to connect with me directly, that's my Twitter. And this is my Instagram. Okay, our accent really matters a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Accents are different, of course. But I think it's really important for students to hear English being spoken by different speakers around the world. I think that's really beneficial to them as well. Carlos would like to become a part of this. Carlos, in about 2 minutes, I'm going to jump on the website. I'm going to show everybody where they can sign up and register for the events. How do I become a member of the program? Guillermo, we're going to jump onto the website in just one moment. I'll get that for you. Are there any history webinars? So not a lot. Occasionally, like right now, we're working with a group in Antarctica and we're going to cover Shackleton's expedition. So they're looking for Ernst Shackleton's lost ship in Antarctica. So we do have events around archaeology sometimes, marine archaeology, but most of our events, we really focus on science and exploration. So not a lot of history. One more question here from Angela. Angela, how can you use this with groups online? Gather your class together and join in the event live. So you can share your screen to your classroom if they're in a Zoom or a Meet or a Teams, and then you can be there with them while they take part in the event. Another way as well is they can all join via YouTube. If you'd rather have them just watch the event live on YouTube, then they can do it that way. And they can still keep Explorers logs at home. They can summarize the events and what they're learning. They can mark on a map where they've visited and explored. And then of course they can research questions that they have that weren't answered. All right, so I'm going to go to the website as promised here. So just give me a moment to bring it back up on the page. And then let's take a little visit there, because I think it is really important that I show you the website and how easy it is to join one of these events. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. That should bring us to the presentation again, but I'm going to slide over here. So as mentioned, it's exploringbytheseat.com. You can find it up there, or if you search Exploring by the Seat on Google, it's going to come up right away as the first thing. You can see a selection of featured events, like today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll be exploring coral live on board the expedition vessel Nautilus. They'll have a remotely operated vehicle in the water. Students will get to ask questions and see them exploring the bottom of the ocean live. So pretty cool. If you scroll down a little bit more, right here, join our newsletter list. So just submit your name and your email and you'll be put on the list. Like I mentioned, we send out one newsletter a week, and that newsletter is full of live events that you can sign up for. Also some cool resources that you can check out. Now, you're ready to sign up for an event. You want to check something out. If you come up to the corner and look at the menu, you can see the live lesson section. If you scroll down, all the live lessons coming up are listed. You can see them all here. Let's pick another cool one that's coming up here. So this one here is with cheetahs. This one is tomorrow at 2:15 Eastern. So Vincent will be talking about his work with cheetahs. You can see how many camera spots are left. You can add it to your calendar by clicking this calendar button. You can share it on social media. You can read about the lesson so you get an idea of what you're going to learn. And then you can sign up. Really easy. Click the sign up button. Give us a little bit of information about your class. Choose the event from the list that you would like to join. And how would you like to join? Are you in the classroom? And would you like a camera spot? You can click that option. Are you a virtual teacher? You can click that option. Would you just like to watch it on YouTube, either live or afterwards? Click this option. That's it. Send that to us with the button at the bottom, and we will get back to you and give you everything you need. If you're joining us on camera, we'll give you the special link to join your camera spot. If you're joining us live on YouTube, we'll send you the YouTube link so you can join in. Whether you're on camera or live on YouTube, you can take part in the Kahoot quiz. You can send us in questions via the live chat. So you still take part in lots of different ways. And finally, if you want to watch it afterwards, the second the event ends, it is up on our YouTube channel. You can watch it whenever you want with your classroom. So let me come back from that screen share there and see if there's any more questions. I see lots of thank yous in the chat. So thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thank you for your great questions. I really hope you sign up. These events are great opportunities for your students to explore the world outside their classroom, outside of their communities, to practice their English, to learn English, and be inspired by scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists all over the world. So happy to stick around for a minute or two if there's more questions, but really it was great to have everybody joining us. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you registering and joining our events as soon as today or tomorrow. It's, you know, if you sign up right now, I'll put you in the events. That's how quickly we work here. So great to have everybody hanging out with us today. And Emily, thank you for being such a great host today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. It's so great to see your passion about this and just sharing all of the resources with everyone here. It was a wonderful session, and all I see are positive comments in the chat. So huge thank you to you. Huge thank you to everyone for joining. Thanks for being here, for spending an hour out of your very busy days as teachers to be with us. Just one thing to mention, and I think, Joe, you've said this before, that National Geographic Learning, a lot of what we try to do, bringing the world to the classroom, feel like we're almost the textbook version of what Joe does. So again, his mission is very similar to us in the fact that we're trying to bring real world content to your students, to learners of English, to help scaffold that content so they have the language they need to really digest real authentic material and be inspired by it, and make learning fun for both students and their teachers too. So Absolutely. If you're interested in learning more, you can definitely go to our website to learn about our programs too. But yeah, just huge thank you, Joe, for that.
Yeah, Emily, like I've said before, if my textbooks growing up featured stories and explorations and research and images from National Geographic explorers, I know that I would have found my passion and what I wanted to do a lot earlier. So amazing resources from NGL, and yeah, these events that you put on for teachers around the world are incredible. So it's always great to be a part of them.
That's great, and we're so happy to have you here. You're about rounding off our winter seasons. This is wonderful. Just a few housekeeping notes for everyone as we wrap up now. We've recorded this session. We actually have a second one tonight too. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you have any colleagues that weren't able to join us for this one, we'd love for them to join our second session. Or if you'd like to come too, feel free to invite your students. Anyone is welcome to join. You can register on our webinar website, and I'll just drop the link into the chat now too. As I do that, I do want to mention we are sending a certificate for joining us today, and as well as the recording. So we'll send that to you via email, and we'll also include some information, the link to the Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants website in our follow-up email too. So if you've missed it today, we'll have it there as well, and you should get that in the next few business days. Great. You'll be directed to a feedback survey now. Please let us know what you thought of this session. And thanks again for being part of the teaching community. And thanks for all you do. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off. Have a good rest of your afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever it is in the world.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks, Joe.